there's a meme that goes around that'll show like a picture of, some typical scene from the 80s or the 90s, and the meme caption says, "The world you live in no longer exists," or "The world you grew up in no longer exists." And it's so very true. It can be depressing the more you think about it, because it's more so than just every generation changes, times change and so forth, and everybody, when they get older, they realize that things aren't the way they were when they were kids, and that's normal. But what we're seeing right now is an unprecedented change. The I think this is even more extreme, but it's similar to, say, somebody who grew up in like the early 1900s. Okay. Early 20th century, you could be a child at that time. And by the time, so you could be born into a world and growing up, as a young child in the world where you're still riding a horse and buggy. And then by the time you die, you're able to fly across the country and go see somebody in an airplane, it was an incredibly, if you look at history, we had never had up until that point into the 20th century. We'd never had such fast technological innovations, in that short a period of time. We're facing similar changes now in a very condensed period of time, but they're changing culture. These are even I would argue even stronger cultural changes than they were in the early 20th century. So it's the fact that we all have smartphones, that children today can't imagine a world that's not interconnected by a you pull it out of their pocket and they can get on the web. That's a culture shifting, even more so than like television. That's a more culture shifting phenomena or piece of technology. In the days of going to a mall, what? You had to go to the store and buy stuff you wanted. That's silly. The days of going to movie theaters and so forth. It's just the world that we knew, not just any one of us who's grown and now the world we knew as a child is different. That happens everywhere, but the world that everybody knew and just 15 years ago, certainly more, but maybe as long as 15 years ago, simply doesn't exist. The culture has so radically shifted, and I would say it hasn't even changed. It's died. It really has died. It's become this very stale, boring, bland. We're just addicted to the next dopamine hit that we can get from the next TikTok video. That's for young people anyway. And you think about it. I've done videos before on how there's no styles. There's no specific unique style, not even of the 2000 teens, to be honest. Some people try and point to this or that was in that maybe isn't so much in now, but it's not a big deal. Whereas you look at something like the 80s and the 90s, or the 60s and the 70s, those were radically different styles. People listened to the same music. They went out and engaged in the culture. The movies that were coming out that, there was a culture, there's a culture of summers. There was a culture of each year by year. And that's just not the case anymore. Everything's homogenized because nothing gets to sit and take root within us long enough, be it music, film, television, trends in clothes or whatever. It's just all here 1 second, gone the next, and nothing takes root and nothing gets celebrated in a cultural moment anymore. So yeah, it's a different world, and I think I'm just depressing you more, Nathaniel's Lowest Ball, which I'm sorry about, but I take solace at least in the fact that there are plenty of us here with you who would prefer the world that's past, certainly, and we band together and we try and create that culture within our own little circles at the very least. So